What's up, everybody? Mike here, and in this video I'll be going over why you should be hyped for Spider-Man 2 coming out very soon here, PS5 only. Let's jump into it. Let's not waste any time. There's a lot to go over here. First, kicking off things with this time around, is a tale of two spiders, essentially, because both Peter and Miles have had their own games respectively, right? And this time around, they are in the same game where they get equal treatment for the most part in terms of like how much you play with them and how the story is going to affect both of the characters. Outside main story beats, that guide you to play one or the other, you're mostly free to quickly swap between them, at pretty much any time you want. PS5's consoles, SSD, zipping you nearly instantly to either Spidey at a button press, basically. With the studio promising some fun character moments as perspectives, that'd be nice to check out and just react to. They also share, a chunk of side activities, spider gadgets, and a base upgrade pass, but also have unique storylines, missions, and skills to unlock. Button layouts are identical, suit gadgets mapped to R1, unique skills to L1, 4 of either active at one time and activated in conjunction with a face button. And similar abilities, means you're never stuck relearning moves, when you switch between characters. So this, they're going to have enough differences to to be their own characters and play a little bit differently, but also be familiar enough to where it's not going to confuse players in terms of how to play as each of them. Then there's evolved movesets with backstory. The game's reveal trailer had Peter utilizing his 4 mechanical spider arms to defeat foes. And I feel like that's sort of like nod or kind of like an evolution of what happened when his experience with Doc Ock. So it feels like, okay, yes, this was technically, one of the suits you can unlock in the game, I believe from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But now it's actually an actual lore thing, an actual part of his suit now. And it makes sense from that perspective because he's going to need something to give him a bit of an edge before he gets a symbiote suit. Then there's also a similar evolution with Miles, who has 2 distinct colorings for his bioelectrical venom powers, which was also shown in the trailer. And I would imagine this is going to play into the story arc as well, how his powers are changing, evolving, things like that. Both electrical and mechanical powers have their own skill tree. XP gradually unlocks AoE attacks, multi-foe launchers, and more. Some examples of this is like Spider Shock, Pete's mechanical spider arms stabbing directly forward with the speed and grace of the arachnid they're based on. And firing off an electrical cascade that fries anyone caught in its web. There's also a wall smash, crowd controlling spider gadgets. The iconic web shooters are still tactically sound to web up a single enemy with a rapid tap of R1. Their capacity is doubled to 12 slots and recharge quickly. But I'm sure you guys would like to know a bit more about, the Savage Symbiote. Like that version of Peter, how is symbiote powers going to work? So with the symbiote suit, much like Peter's mechanical arms, it has its own skill tree with a foursome of attacks already mapped and primed. You can toss out the tendrils that'll auto-grab and lift enemies in the vicinity before powerfully slamming them back into the earth. Symbiote Strike has a suit envelop Peter into a writhing mass that shoots forward. Momentum and additional extruding spikes catapult an enemy backwards, whereas Symbiote Punch is an all-powerful launcher, leaving enemies stunned and airborne, ready for follow-up combos, making this possibly, the most brutal Peter's ever going to be possibly this far. It's also interesting to note that in the first game, Spider-Man, most of the bosses, or if not all the bosses and enemies, were very tech-based, whereas Spider-Man 2 feels it's taking a more monster approach in a sense, and it's kind of fitting because, it is coming out in Spooky Month, Halloween, because you got Venomary, you got Lizard, Kraven, not necessarily a monster in a sense like that, but he's technically, is trying to find the next big hunt. That's kind of his whole thing, his whole shtick, his gimmick or motto is I want to find that next big hunt. He just craves that hunt. So him hunting monsters makes sense. And him coming to New York, possibly hunt Spider-Man. We saw from the trailer, it seems like he's hunting Lizard, which is aka Dr. Connors. So, it only would naturally make sense that he's essentially a different kind of monster and possibly going to be unpredictable as a villain. And Insomniac themselves have purposely leaned away from, the techie type enemies anyway, looking to villains, to monsters that can offer something different, both narratively and gameplay wise. And you can also feel like the theme of transformation in Spider-Man 2 as well. And then we see like in a sort of very short part of like one of the recent trailers where Miles confronts Mr. Negative, who is showing off having a beard now, he's aged, and like we see how time's passed and how the character's changed in his own right, to see how there's been a transformation in him in some way, to see how what he's done has affected Miles because of the life and death of Miles' dad. So far, the enemy types we're going to see here, initially is going to be Kraven's Men, which are hunters. And these packs are consistently large in number, boasting multiple waves with a hellish, diverse range of enemy types. Airborne, mechanized Talon drones will snipe from the air, from afar, while their four-legged counterparts emit large, nullifying fields that block out your skills until they're knocked out, which is going to be something similar from what the first game did, which kind of annoyed me at times, because in the first game, you would get this like device where it's like kind of like a rope thing, and if you got caught with it, you would be stunned, you had to like mash the square button to get out of it. Not only that, there was like this red aura you would get hit with, or debuff, which would not allow you to use your gadgets and stuff. So it seems like they're bringing that back in some way. I get it. They don't want to be too easy. They want to have a challenge. When I don't know, it's just, I feel like other games do that better when it comes to debuffing you, where it's not as bad. But I don't know. It is what it is. Then there's explosives that are also practiced by certain human hunters who launch multi-ground mines or poisonous grenades from afar, while others shoot electrified nets or blanket the area overhead with an electrifying field. After this, shield carriers, gunners, and those that like to launch at you with twin daggers, and your work is cut out, So it's going to be a lot of these enemies coming at you. There's definitely a distinct sense of escalation and a richer, palette of enemy encounters here from this description here, and that we're going to see in Spider-Man 2, which I'm all for. I want it to be fun. I want it to be more engaging with the combat, the enemies. I want it to be more challenging. And the parry mechanics, so dodge and fist, bullets, claws, and more, still an intricate part of the gameplay loop of Spider Sense, and circle press away essentially with doing that. But now both Peter and Miles have the option to parry as well. Now these attacks are particularly like denoted by a yellow circle turning red around the advancing enemy, tapping L1 correctly repelling them. Some attacks cannot be parried though, requiring quick moves to escape their reach. And we can't forget about Harry Osborn, who now seems to be a active part of the story now. It's not in the background chilling in that containment unit or whatever the heck what it is with the symbiote on him. So in this one, it seems that friendship circles and this friendship in general might be more tested. We kind of get a hint of that with what's going on with Peter's attitude once he gets a symbiote suit and how he's treating Miles while they're, doing their hero stuff, basically. And that's like, we got already a glimpse of that in that first gameplay review when they were trying to get the lizard. But it seems like it's also going to, we're going to see how the friendship is with him and Harry too, and how Harry's going to view the other characters and what his relationship is going to be with Miles, MJ, and others. Now, just for some clarity on when this game is set in terms of the timeline or how far it's been since the previous games, the game is set 9 months after the events of Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales. And typically in the world of Spider-Man, Harry Osborn is Peter's best friend since high school, right? They're basically close as brothers. And sadly, Harry was absent in the first game, for the most part, with the exception of like you do these side quests that are specific to him, or we had these like voice messages, that dealt with the environment and stuff like that. But he was essentially sort of like a background character in a sense in the first game. So, and the reason they were given for him being gone is like supposedly he took a trip to Europe. That's what MJ and Peter were under the impression of. He took a trip to Europe. But what was also later revealed in Spider-Man 1 is that he has the disease. He has a genetic disease that apparently passed down from his mom, that his mom died from. We still don't know fully what the disease is, I believe. But it seems in this one, in this universe or version of Harry, Harry seems to know Peter is Spider-Man, and apparently knows Miles is as well. How or when that happened, we gotta wait and play the game. Insomniac seems to be playing into the awkwardness of overlapping friendships and mutual connections. Obviously teasing a recent trailer, and it seems like Miles and Peter are going to try and find a cure for, or trying to help find a cure for Harry, and they need Dr. Kirk Connors for that. And that's why they're trying to prevent, in that one scene, from Craven getting the lizard, Dr. Kirk Connors. Puzzles make a return. You got, precision and gizmos as well. So Peter Miles, got to use their smarts as well as their fists to essentially solve an abundant amount of puzzles here. I believe there's going to be even more puzzles than the first game. And I talked about that in my previous video where I talked about what's new in Spider-Man 2, so I went into more details about that. But yeah, new puzzles are back. Can't forget there's going to be a bigger map this time around. A lot of cool new things to explore, a lot of new areas to go to, new side activities, more side mission stuff to do, as well as more story. I believe it was reported that it's going to be roughly about the same amount in terms of game length as the first game. So on the first playthrough in Spider-Man 1, if you did the main story, I believe it was like roughly 20 hours, maybe a little less if you rush through it. If you do side story and side activities, anything like that, it's going to be more closer to like 25 to 30 hours, especially if you go for the platinum. So, and then also, that also depends on what difficulty you play it on, things like that. And while there is, a darker theme and tone to this game, there's still going to be those spider quips that, many of us really love and enjoy. There's going to be tons of humor and funny remarks in this game. And it's still going to be a story with a lot of heart. Like, that's how I feel about the first game. It was a story with a lot of heart. There were, personal connections tied to the villains, which I really enjoyed that. I felt like Spider-Man 1 was stronger in that regard than Miles Morales when it came to those personal relationships and how, certain characters, how their ends were and things like that and what happened. So I would expect this game to be, taking it to the next level. It seems like it is going to take it to the next level because we also know in the usual universe of comic books that Peter's also close to Dr. Kirk Connors. So, it's going to be interesting to see what his relationship to Kirk Connors is in this game. Is it going to be something similar to what he had with Dr. Octavius? Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be better? I don't know. But I love that we got Tony Todd as Venom. Love his voice. He's done a lot of great work. Love him as Candyman in his other works he's done in the past. Such a great voice actor. So that about wraps it up for the new details I want to talk about you guys and why you should be hyped for this game. This drops on October 20th for PS5. So if you're a big Spider-Man fan like myself, get out and get it. But I also understand if you want to wait, hold off for a sale. I feel like this is a must buy, but I'm hyped for it as can be. I cannot wait to see what happens in the story. I know as far as now, there's been no clarification and confirmation on any DLC yet, story DLC that is, unlike the first game. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I would imagine there would be something in the future for this, but once again, I have to wait and see. And, there's always also Black Friday coming up, so if you maybe want to wait for a sale then, it could potentially be off by 10, 20 bucks by then. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully this gave you some better insight into what to expect from Spider-Man 2. Are you hyped for the game? Are you not hyped for it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.